Let us start. I want to welcome you all to this session. It's my absolute pleasure to welcome you to this session of Teodora Bozheva. She's the founder and CEO of Berriprocess Agility. And for more than 15 years, she's been helping companies in many different domains level up the project and service management and meet and exceed expectations of their customers. But she's not only a co-author of the Kanban Maturity Model. You've probably seen this. It's very thick these days. Quite a lot of content in there. But she's also one of the leading authorities on project, program, and portfolio management with Kanban, which her talk today is all about. So, Teodora, over to you. We're really looking forward to hear more about how we should use Kanban in these project, program, and portfolio management scenarios.
Okay, thank you very much, Mark. I'm going to share my screen. Well, during these years, I have seen that these project organizations have little information or knowledge about how to use Kanban for managing their projects. And that's why I decided to present this experience of the companies I've been working with firsthand during the last more than 8 years. And so I'm going to share with you the experience of these 21 companies because I know them well. So this is firsthand experience, not an analysis of data of coming from other people talking about their experience. And I think, although I don't claim at all that this experience should be applicable to any context, I believe that the experience and the insights of these companies might be interesting for people and for organizations who consider Kanban for helping them in managing their projects. So just a little bit of data about these 21 companies. Some of the things were new to me or were kind of surprise also to me when I saw the data. For example, I was surprised that half of the companies were small and medium enterprises, 11 companies out of 21, and the other half were large organizations, large companies. And to the question whether Kanban is applicable only to IT and software development companies, you can see this second diagram showing, the second graphics showing that, in fact, 52% of the companies were engineering companies. And only 20% of the companies were IT or software development companies. And also we've been working with banks, with insurance companies, with a large retail organization company in Spain, and with a company that is developing medical equipment. From these 21 companies, 57% had previously tried other agile methods before coming to Kanban. So that was kind of my feeling that Kanban is always the last method to try when we talk about developing agility and agile project management. And 43% of these companies were transitioning from predictive project management methods, in particular project management body of knowledge, or some of them were saying that, yeah, we have our own project management method. So it's kind of project management body of knowledge, but developed particularly for the organization. So that's about the context. And why do I think that this experience, the experience of these companies, might be interesting for other organizations? Let's start with this company, a small engineering company. In the Basque Country, Sumabe. I started working with them in May 2013, so 8 years ago. And at that time, they were an organization in which every day the business unit manager was assigning tasks directly to the people and was controlling what they were doing and how they were progressing with their jobs. And nowadays, this company is completely different. They manage their entire business with Kanban. Their business days begin with a meeting in front of their Kanban boards, to make decisions together, what they have to focus their attention on during the day, and they take accountability, of course, on their actions. So it's not only that their project management practices changed significantly, completely during these 8 years, but also the culture of the organization changed. Now they have this focus on what is important to our customers, what we have to deliver together, and how much capacity we have for delivering the work. And so really significant change in this organization. And something very important, 2 years after they started, so in the end of 2015, they certified their project management processes with ISO 21500. By that day, I did not know at all that ISO 21500 existed, but this is a standard for project management based on project management body of knowledge, but also accommodating practices for lean project management. So it was a good experience going through this certification for the company. And I'm mentioning this because for many organizations, it is important. They usually ask the question whether managing project work with Kanban is compatible with standard processes like project management body of knowledge, for example. So this was a good experience, a good example in this sense. This is another company, another engineering company, a large engineering company developing intralogistics projects. They develop baggage handling facilities for airports and also intelligent warehouses in many different places all over the world. So they develop large projects like between 1 year and a half and 2 years and a half, involving many stakeholders, clients with very strict regulatory requirements, lots of engineering work and design work beforehand. And then they also include software development, of course, in all their installations. So that company decided to start with adopt agile practices for managing projects, although they had professional project managers, but they were feeling that, yes, only with the traditional project management practices, we could not cope with all the changes that we have to manage from customer perspective or from suppliers perspective. And that's why they decided to start with agile practices in the beginning of 2019. And by the autumn of 2019, they had an enormous Obeya room with plenty of boards on the walls, with lots of information on the walls, but still this information, the usage of this information was not practical and was not helpful to them in sense of it did not allow them to make decisions quickly, to identify quickly what is the status of the project and decide what actions have to be taken in order to address risks and to reduce delays in the projects. For them, addressing these needs was essential. So they started with Kanban in November 2019. And only 5 months later, the pandemic started and the first lockdown happened in Spain. And you can imagine how the lockdown, it was about 3 months, how it affected this company with suppliers and with facilities and developing the work in many different places all over the world. But the good point is when the pandemic started in March 2020, they only had the design of their Kanban systems at the level of managing projects. The interesting point about this company is that although the pandemic started, that was not a cause for them to regress back to the management practices that were known for years. Just the opposite, they accelerated the adoption of Kanban in order to be able to see the status of the projects at all levels in the organization. And now they are using Kanban precisely for managing their project work at all levels of the organization, starting from the management board, from the project management office, at project level, at team level. So all the projects are completely, entirely managed by means of Kanban and Kanbanize in this case. So another interesting point about this organization, about this company, is that during the pandemic, in addition to all the changes that they had to overcome, there was a change of the CEO and change of the director of the project management office, but they still use Kanban and for managing all their projects. So to me, this is a clear signal that this is something that is helpful to them, and that's why they continue using it. Otherwise, these are serious disruptions in the organizations that might have eliminated the use of Kanban for project management. And other interesting outcomes from other organizations. One company based in UK switched from 5 days working week to 4 days working week just because they improved their efficiency and they considered that they can work only Monday to Thursday. And the interesting common feature, common characteristics of all the companies that take part in this study are that all of them admit that they would not go back to previous management practices. I think this is something very interesting and very important to understand, and also to understand why and how it happened in these companies. So to all of these companies, introducing Kanban for project management has been kind of journey. So we have 21 different journeys. But in all the journeys, we have had a kind of desired outcomes, or this is the goal for the organization. And then 2 groups of forces. The first one is the group of forces that push them ahead and help them progress towards their desired outcome. And the second group of forces that push them back and does not allow them to progress, or at least do not allow them to progress as quickly as they would like. So in total, when we are talking about advancing project organizations, we can consider this like seeing which are the forces that push them ahead, plus the actions that the organizations take and put in place, and see how they manage to get stronger than the forces that push them back. So this is in fact the topic of my conversations. I would like to share with you what was motivating these organizations, what were these forces that were pushing them back, and what helped them to advance in their different contexts. So starting from the desired outcome, this motivation for initiating with Kanban for project management, I told you that 100% of the organizations were sure that they would not go back to the previous project management practices. And at the same time, 100% of these organizations, these 21 companies, started with the clear goal to improve project results. So the interesting point here is that, pay attention, they did not start it with the idea to implement Kanban. They did not start it with the idea to implement or to run, to launch an agile transformation. They were focused, their goal was to improve the project results. And this means, in first place, reduce the delays, reduce the extra cost, and cope with all the changes that were coming from the customers, in the customer requirements, in the customer expectations. Adapt to changing priorities, improve the communication within the teams, between the projects, between the project teams and the customer and the supplier. Manage risk effectively. Many of these organizations were sharing their opinion or feeling, their perception that they cannot manage risk, that whatever risk mitigation activities they were applying, risks always became problems. So in fact, they were questioning whether these risk mitigation activities were effective. So they wanted to find a solution to this problem. And also a very high workload for the project teams, and also in some contexts, high bureaucracy. And in some of the organizations, I frequently have the question about, when we start scaling Kanban, does it suppose any bureaucracy, greater bureaucracy for the organization or not? So one of the objectives was reducing bureaucracy in these organizations. So that was the focus of all the organizations that started when they were starting with Kanban. A second element of their motivation or their desired outcomes was gradually start introducing changes to the behaviors in the organization. I was impressed during my first meeting with Juan Gelberte, the CEO of Fulma Handling Systems, when he told me that they were interested in improving the competitiveness of the business. That's why they wanted to improve the project management practices. And this is in an organization in which all the project managers were absolutely well trained and were professional project managers. And still they wanted to improve their project management practices. And he was fully aware that this was requiring a culture change. So in addition to introducing more effective project management practices, he and the management board were interested in introducing changes in the behaviors. And he was they were referring in particular to introducing greater collaboration, cooperation between the business units during managing these projects. In their situation, they were running in parallel between 40 and 80 projects in some moments. So definitely cooperation between the business units and between the projects was absolutely necessary in such situations. So these were the cultural changes that they were seeking in parallel to introducing new project management practices. And I counted from the other companies how many of them were also seeking cultural change in the organization when they were started with Kanban. And you see the data here on my slide. 62% of the companies were motivated with increasing the collaboration, cooperation, respect to the people, customer focus, and purpose-driven decision-making in the organization. 62%, not all of them, but still quite a good part of these companies. And the third element of motivation for starting with Kanban was sustainability. In many of the organizations, they were observing a very high workload for the people, and they were realizing that that was not sustainable. In one of the companies, they told me that now people are working 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. And we want to go back to working 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, because they were realizing that this pace of work was not sustainable. Something else, it's not only that the pace of work is not sustainable for the people, but they are aware that if they don't do something about improving this situation, they will start losing the customer, losing the trust of the customer. So this is that was absolutely important condition and objective motivation for this company. Offline, after our first meetings, they told me that this very high workload is a consequence of the fact that they previously had 2 reorganizations in order to adopt other agile methods. And as a consequence of this, they lost 20% of their senior staff. So they were in a situation when they didn't want to hire junior staff anymore because they could not afford to have delays or deteriorated customer service because of lack of experience of the people. But on the other side, it was very difficult and very expensive to hire senior staff. So this problem with the workload was very important for this company. And that was not the only company. In many of these organizations, the workload was kind of reducing the workload for the people was part of the motivation for starting with Kanban. These are the words of another managing director in a software development company. The workload is brutal. We need to do something about this. We need more people. But it takes a lot of time, about a year, until a new person becomes productive. And in this company in particular, 3 to 4 months later, they realized that they managed the entire work with their current capacity with the people they were working there without overburdening for the people, only focusing on managing the flow of work. So if we summarize, so the motivation, the three key elements of motivation from these 21 companies is improving the project results, introducing new behaviors in the organization, I would say maybe new culture, gradually start developing these new behaviors, and also achieving sustainability for the people working in the organization. And a little bit about the forces that were pushing them ahead and back, starting from the team level. Of course, at team level, all the organizations start at this level, and when we talk to the people in the teams, what they wish and the forces that really motivate them and push them ahead is to work in a better organized manner, to collaborate, to have a greater collaboration within the teams and also with colleagues from other teams, and to work with less interruptions and less overburden. What they are afraid, or the forces that keep them back or push them back, is the feeling or the perception that Kanban is another means of control, and this can be used somehow against them. Or when they realize that this is not a means of control, but a means of managing work, they start seeing and complaining that they do not have enough means to prevent the managers from pushing work in progress. But we will see how they address them. From project management, our key customers, project managers and project management office members or directors. Basically, they want to do their job competently. This is what pushes them ahead. They want to demonstrate that they can manage the project, that they deliver good results on time, within budget, satisfying their customers. So these are the forces that push them ahead. The fears or the inertia and the friction or all the difficulties that cause them difficulties for advancing is this fear that transparency is a very powerful tool and very well accepted in general by all the teams. However, for some project managers, not all, for some project managers, it might be scary. They might have the feeling that they could lose control, especially when all the people, all the team members start seeing the situation of the project and start sharing opinions and suggesting decisions. So they might have the feeling that they could lose control and fail in their projects. For some organizations, especially in larger organizations, the project management office directors and members have very high accountability for the work that they are doing. And in such situations, they are afraid of adopting new practices because this might affect the success of the project, and the success of the project is almost equivalent to the success of the business. So this is really an important feeling of fear for this type, for project management professionals in this type of organizations. And of course, the need of adopting a new tool. All the project managers and project management officer complains from many tools and uncomfortable tools. But on the other side, switching to another Kanban tool is kind of worrying. And from the management directors and C-suite perspective, of course, they are concerned mainly with the business outcomes of the organization, and the pushback forces are typically related to reorganization in the company, or in some organization, larger organizations, silos organization, this idea of common decision-making process towards the common shared purpose of the organization is kind of scaring or creating anxiety or uncertainty for some people, and also the need to use a new tool. So yeah, the question now is having clear the idea of which are the forces that help the organizations to progress, to advance, but also understanding the forces that push them back. What are the actions that can help the organizations to really make progress towards their desired outcomes? And here we start. The first action, well, this is not a class on Kanban, so my idea is not to teach Kanban, but to teach all the other things around introducing Kanban in organizations that can help to achieve success in project organizations. So the first thing is involve the people in the design of the initial solution. Okay, in the design of their Kanban boards, Kanban systems for managing work at team level. This is very important, especially for if you are in a situation when people have some doubts that this might be a means of control. So when they start seeing first that the Kanban boards are adapted and reflect their real processes as they are now. So they start seeing and understanding that, yes, it is about managing work. When they start seeing that they can contribute to the development of this, this design of the Kanban systems, and they know how they start learning how to improve this design continuously. Of course, this creates this motivation for continuing improving the way they manage the work at team level. And usually the first very positive and very engaging and motivating insight at the team level is that when they realize that the more work in progress they have, the higher the disorder in the work and the higher the risk of delays for the projects. So they understand why in Kanban we say that the second practice in Kanban is limit work in progress. They don't need to know all these practices. Well, in total they are safe, but they have to understand why this is important to them. So I think this is usually the first step, important step that facilitates the progress of the entire organization, because we are talking about team level. And then the second step is when they see the entire project work end to end, from the idea until the delivery of this idea to the market, or from the customer request until the delivery of this customer request, or this request to the customer. And when these teams start seeing what they are doing together, how they are contributing to the development of the entire project results, to all project deliverables, they start understanding how the actions and the decisions in one business area or one team of specialists might affect the work developed by other teams of specialists or another business area. And they start creating this enables the cooperation between teams and between business units within the end-to-end workflow of the project. So this understanding, again, puts the entire project team of teams, if they are different specialists, in front of the same picture, in front of the same situation. They start seeing the same situation and of the project and create this understanding and start thinking together which are the most appropriate actions if we are serious about managing our work and we want to deliver on time or within some deadlines if they have. So very important insights and experiences developed at this level, so involving the people. Then we continue. When organizations start managing their project work with Kanban and with these simple Kanban boards of this type, I mean, not always the same, but in fact, always different, but based on the same principles for developing Kanban systems. This helps them, especially the project managers, start obtaining instant answers to questions that are very important for managing project work. First, whether we are working on the right work item, because the scarcest resource in the organizations are always the people. So whether the people are focused their attention on what is important for the project now, what is the status of the project. The Kanban board at all levels is the best project status report. So if they start reading it and especially having it in real time, this is absolutely valuable for the entire project teams and for the project managers. And they start seeing that they can act quickly on the problems and the risks, because immediately they get feedback about the status of the projects. Then the second suggestion is use a right Kanban tool. I know that Many consultants would disagree with this suggestion. I'm a consultant, and for many years, I was trying not to suggest a particular Kanban tool, but definitely, if we want to see the success of our customers, we have to advise them correctly, and we have to advise them to select the right tool for project management. And this should be the tool that allows to visualize easily the work at team level, at project level, and multiple projects level, portfolio level, that allows easily to connect all the boards in order to be able to visualize and manage effectively dependencies between teams. This tool which should allow visualizing all the issues or all the problems and risks that might happen in the organization. Also, the tool should be able to see who is doing what, who is overloaded, and how we manage the workload of the people. And in addition, the tool should be able to provide all the metrics and data that project managers need in order to be able to manage the predictability of their projects. We are going to talk about this just a second later. But something very important about the tools is that they have to be easily integrated with planning tools like Microsoft Project or other project tools, with their ERP system, with other systems that the organization uses in such a way that the organization gets a complete flow of the management information, automated, avoiding duplication of management work, because usually this is the most expensive time of the people. So creating an integrated management systems, including the right tool for program for Kanban project management, is absolutely important for the organizations. All these companies that I'm talking about, after studying different tools, in the end, they are using Kanbanize, and therefore I can suggest Kanbanize as an appropriate tool for the right tool for Kanban project management. And here we come to the data, the metrics, especially for project managers who are afraid that they might lose control, that if the teams are seeing everything, then what is the value that the project manager is contributing to managing the work? So when we develop the skills of the project managers to take advantage from this information that is collected in the tools for managing projects with Kanban, and start using it to improve their estimations, to improve their predictability, to improve the level of confidence when they are giving some estimations, to improve the quality of the products, because they can immediately see what is causing the blockages, what is causing the rework, what is making the work wait in the queues in the Kanban system. So all this information appropriately analyzed and with the right conclusions taken out of it help the project managers to manage the work in the organizations. And of course, if they're interested in continue improving the processes of developing the project work, managing the efficiency is another metric that is very useful for the organizations. And this is the last, but I think this is absolutely the key point for advancing project organizations, is that when we go beyond the project level and the entire organization starts understanding how the work flows from the customer, from the moment they receive the request or develop an idea until the delivery to the market or the customer, how this work goes through different business units, business areas, or specialized teams in the organization, and how this copy of their operating model works. This deep understanding of how they work as an organization really helps them understand and start improving as an organization. In terms of Kanban, we would call that this the service, the network of Kanban services. But if we want to explain it, especially how organizations see it, is a kind of twin of the organization's operating model. And once they understand how they work, and where are the pitfalls in creating a flow and stable flow, continuous flow of work. They really can take actions and improve. So that was the insight that occurred in a large insurance company. And this is the managing director of the software development business area of this company, about 500 people working in this area. And she told us, we, referring to the management, we thought that Kanban was only for the team. So this is the case when they started using Kanban for project management, because they were thinking that, okay, this is a method that will help the teams to do their job magically. So we, from the higher level management, we can send requests and we can start projects the way we do it, and the teams will be able to cope with them. So they realized that, in fact, they were causing a good part of the mess in the organization. And therefore, they continued using Kanban precisely because they want to achieve better results in the organization. The first step, of course, is this insight, this understanding what is causing, as they said, the mess in the organization. But the second step is understanding that they need to prioritize the work. This means that they need to come to common prioritization criteria at the organizational level, and they have to start evaluating the projects that they want to start, also from market perspective, and start managing. This is the big step of advancing the organizations, managing the work in the entire organization in such a way that they stabilize the workflow through this network of Kanban systems from the perspective of the organization. So create this twin of this internal operating model of the organizations, create an understanding of how it works, when it works, and what impedes the achievement of the desired outcomes, and based on this understanding, develop actions that help the organizations improve. So in total, if I have to summarize what is helping the project organizations to advance with Kanban and to achieve better results, is first, focus on a business-related purpose. Business-related purpose includes new behaviors and new culture in the organization, but it is definitely oriented towards delivering good results, good project results within budget, on time, with good quality to the customers. Then involve the people at all levels, starting from the team, project level, program level, portfolio level, senior management level, in the creation of the development, in creating the right structure or collection of Kanban systems for managing the entire work. This way they start understanding and develop the ownership of their work, and that's why they are involved and contribute actively to improving this system of Kanban systems. Then use the right tool. Definitely do not see the Kanban tool as a kind of investment just in infrastructure. See it as a means to reduce overhead, to reduce bureaucracy, and to obtain the right information on time in order to be able to make right estimations and to improve the predictability of the projects. And then use metrics. There is lots of information in the Kanban systems if you take this information from the Kanban tools. And something else, when companies start using metrics, they start increasing the discipline of using the Kanban systems and the discipline of using their policies for managing work. Precisely because they understand that if they do not do this in a disciplined manner, the information in the metrics is not correct and the conclusions are not the best conclusions. And create this understanding of the copy or the digital twin of their operating model and use it to improve the performance of the organizations. These are practices. These are like suggestions or insights that help improving the performance, but something very important is that they develop these change in the behaviors, in the culture of project organizations towards more collaboration, cooperation, purpose-driven culture, customer focus, and respect. So I think this is our experience with these 21 companies, real experiences, companies who still use Kanban. A lot of this experience is documented in the Kanban Maturity Model, although not explicitly in this way as I told it to you now. And yeah, Mark showed you that the Kanban Maturity Model is quite a thick book. However, the guide for project management with Kanban is only 20 pages, and you can download it for free from our website. And we are working on this project and portfolio management with Kanban program, if you are more interested in this topic. And I don't know how much time I have, but I think I would stop here, and if you have some questions, I will be happy to answer them.
Yeah, I think we can definitely use the last few minutes for questions. You have now given us a lot to think about. I think it's a primer in Kanban for project management with Kanban. Teodora, will you be in the networking session later this evening?
Yes, maybe not the entire session, but yes.
Okay, but certainly in the beginning. So if there are follow-up questions, that's a good time also to meet Teodora there. But we do have time for 1, 2 questions. I don't see anything in the chat at the moment.
Well, I have a question.
Yes,
thank you very much for this excellent presentation. I think it was really helpful. And I have a question about if you implement the Kanban boards to lower level, what is about if there is some stress in the organization? Do they really keep to the rules of Kanban, or is there some resistance?
All these companies, they stick to the rules of Kanban, but it has never been a requirement to demonstrate that they apply the rules. I mean, you see that the Kanban boards are designed applying static. They limit the work in progress, but they do not limit the work in progress because Kanban says that they have to limit the work in progress. Mm-hmm. They limit it because they realize that the more work in progress, the more mess in the team. So if we really want to focus on few things and focus our attention on developing the results and delivering the outcomes, so it's better to have less work in progress. This doesn't mean that they do not deliver more work, because the work stays in the queue, simply they don't put it in progress. So they use the Kanban practices, but we've never done kind of audit to see whether you really applied as Kanban says. So of course, we always adapt the solution, the ideas from Kanban, the Kanban practices to the context of the organization. So if someone wants to meet, this sounds like an audit, if someone wants to explicitly insist that all the Kanban practices are correctly used, the question would be whether the Kanban practice, the appropriate Kanban practices are selected for this organization in this stage of their development. Precisely to avoid overreaching, to avoid that we force the organization to apply practices that are maybe too ambitious to them, not appropriate for their stage of development, or maybe not appropriate, too easy. So the question would be whether they have selected the appropriate level of applying the Kanban practices in the organization.
Next question is, do you share the metrics between teams, or do you only tell the teams these are your metrics, or do you share metrics all over the organization?
These organizations, usually they share the metrics across the teams. but always the focus is not to compare the teams. The focus is on optimizing the final results. So this is usually we have these discussions, deep discussions, especially when we start sharing and we want to manage the work across different projects, program level or portfolio level. The objective is not to compare and to optimize the results of one project and another project and a third project. Improving the outcomes for an organization requires optimizing the project results together. Okay, so it's not just the sum of the project results of the individual projects, but optimizing the outcome for the organization in such a way that all the teams work in a sustainable manner.
Okay, thank you.
So they need the metrics, they are shared, but they are not used for comparing one team with another or one project with another. Always the objective is to optimize the results for the organizations. Sonia.
Hi, Teodora. Thank you very much for this.
Thank you for coming.
It was awesome, as always. I just have one question. So let's say that we would like to apply the Kanban Maturity Model in an organization. Where do we start? What's the first thing that we need to do in order to implement it and evaluate the maturity level of a company?
So we first have to know, we have to make kind of interviews or talk with the people from the organizations to know where they are. And once we know where they are and where they want to go, then we can start defining kind of a roadmap for them based on the Kanban Maturity Model.
So is there an appraisal model available so we can follow steps on how we can evaluate the level of maturity of an organization?
So far, there isn't an appraisal model developed, but I will be happy. We are working on this, and I will be happy after this session, of course, to talk with you about guidelines about how to appraise organizations, and especially project organizations.
Thank you. That would be really useful.
Yeah.
Perfect. So you can definitely talk about that in the networking session later on. I unfortunately have to close now because we need to get ready for the next session. So thank you very much again, Teodora, for sharing all your knowledge. I could see you were talking quite fast to get all of that fit into the little time that you had. We will all talk a hell of a lot of information with us in something that is as important as managing projects. So thank you, and I'm hoping that we are going to have lots of people for your questions in the networking sessions.